Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heave is gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. Oh, he hit it. John Morant, insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parish. The Grizzlies lost on Monday night to the Boston Celtics 109-106. It was the first Grizzlies home loss of the season, the first loss when Ja, Dez, and Dillon all play, the first loss when Santi Aldama makes more than one three-pointer. It was an exciting game. It was a close game. It was an encouraging game, I feel like. You know, maybe you could argue there are no good losses. This felt like a good loss to me. I thought the win over the Wizards kind of made me feel bad. This loss against the Celtics kind of made me feel good. The Celtics are a very, very good team. We know they made the finals last year. They came into this game leading the NBA in three-pointers made per game. The Grizzlies were playing on the second night of a back-to-back. The third game in 4 nights, the Celtics were rested. These are the teams you want to compare yourself against if you're the Grizzlies. I thought the Grizzlies did a great job. They got off to a very strong start. They had a catastrophic second quarter collapse. The Celtics scored 20 consecutive points, but the Grizzlies won the overall three-point battle. That's encouraging as the team continues to make threes. They fought and clawed their way back into it. They took a lead in the fourth quarter. They fell down once again, but still had a chance at the end and got very, very close as the Celtics themselves missed a couple free throws down the stretch. The Grizzlies kept applying pressure, and you had a really good game between two really good teams. Also, adding to the overall feeling that I have of encouragement from this loss is the Grizzlies were playing without Steven Adams. Steven Adams injured his ankle in the third quarter against the Wizards. He came back in that one in the fourth quarter and helped the Grizzlies secure the victory. But there's no Steven Adams. Of course, there's no Jaren Jackson Jr. There's still no Zaire Williams. And you go toe-to-toe with a team that had all of their key offensive pieces. You played great defense once again. The Celtics are missing Robert Williams, who will eventually help their defense. But this is a really, really good squad that you went toe-to-toe with despite being shorthanded. This is now 4 straight games for the Grizzlies where they posted a defensive rating under 110. Maybe the first 3 you could explain away by saying those teams were missing their best players. The Trailblazers and then the Hornets and then the Wizards. But the Celtics, again, had their full complement of offensive weapons, and the Grizzlies holding them to 109 points. That's encouraging. It shows to me that the defense is trending in the proper direction. Brandon Clark got the start for Steven Adams. He had 10 points and 8 rebounds. We got more of those Clark and Aldama minutes. I like that with the starters. Of course, those Aldama and Clark minutes got absolutely blitzed at the start of the second quarter when the Celtics started their big run. Tyus Jones, Desmond Bane, David Roddy, Aldama, and Clark was the 5-man unit that really got lit up. Poor Roddy finished in minus 15 in his 5 minutes of playing time. But Brandon Clark played well. Aldama, I thought, had an okay defensive game. And then you got your huge performances from John Morant. Desmond Bane just does what he does. 19 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Dillon struggled a little bit. I mean, he definitely struggled offensively, but he gave you a full Dillon game. Dillon had 5 assists and 7 rebounds, 2 steals and a block. I will definitely take that effort despite the shooting struggles. More on the shooting struggles in a little bit. So John Morant had 30 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. He knocked down 5 3-pointers. Also had yet another spectacular blocked shot, got 2 steals. No Grizzlies player ever has had a game where they hit all those marks. 30 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block, and 5 made three-pointers. Ja Morant's the first one ever to do that in Grizzlies franchise history. He did miss several free throws, including 2 really painful ones down the stretch. He's now made just 9 of his last 15 free throws over the past 2 games. Maybe the dream of shooting 85% from the line for the season is a little bit gone, but his jump shot still looks good. The 5 made three-pointers, and he continued to hit some mid-range jumpers. Him adding that to his repertoire is definitely feels like the final key to unlocking MVP Morant. Desmond Bane did not get as many shots up in this one. I don't know if the Celtics, if you credit their defense, they are a very good defensive team. He barely kept his streak of games making 2 or more three-pointers going. That last three-pointer he made that cut it to a 1-point deficit, that was his second three-pointer of the game. So that is now 27 consecutive regular season games with 2 or more made threes for Desmond Bane. That is the longest current streak in the NBA and now the 10th longest streak ever, tied with one from Ray Allen in 2006. If Bane makes 2 or more three-pointers against the Spurs on Wednesday, he will move up to 9th into a tie with Steph Curry. By the way, the record for the most consecutive games with 2 or more three-pointers is 53, held by Steph Curry. So just over halfway there. Go, Des, go. We believe in you. The Dylan Brooks stat line, like I was saying, he certainly kind of filled it up. You had an underwhelming 13 points on 17 field goal attempts. He was 6 for 17 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3 for the second straight game. But 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, only 1 turnover. He fouls out of this game. I know I've kind of defaulted into being one of Dylan's biggest defenders, and I have to acknowledge his shot selection in this one was not good. There were large stretches of bad offensive Dylan. But everything else is there. 5 assists and 1 turnover? 2 blocks and a steal while having to guard Jason Tatum the whole time? Not sure what more you can ask for out of Dylan. Clearly you hope the shots go in. And he's really struggling with one specific quarter. Here's your extreme novelty stat. I was noting this during the playback watch party I did. Just it felt like in the first halves, Dylan was really, really struggling this season. In the second halves, he was good. And I looked into it, and actually, it's specifically the second quarter. Here's what Dylan is shooting in the second quarters this year. 14%. His field goal percentage by quarter. First quarter, 51%. Second quarter, 14%. Third quarter, 42%. Fourth quarter, 54%. So fourth quarter Dylan is definitely a thing. But for whatever reason, none of his second quarter shots are going in. 14%. Also, by the way, he's shooting 30% on Mondays. If you want another totally useless fact. Off the bench, you had Conchar making a lot of threes in this one. He tied his career high with 4 made three-pointers on 7 attempts. I don't know if Conchar's become a certified Celtics killer. His last 2 games against the Celtics have been pretty wild. Of course, one was the last regular season game of the year last year when he had a triple-double in a game the Grizzlies lost. But Conchar rediscovered his three-point stroke. He's still hitting them at an elite level so far this season. He's at 43% on threes so far. Overall, the team continues making three-pointers. LaRavia dropped 2 more in this one, including one on a move I did not know he had. A step-back three-pointer in the corner where he absolutely drilled it. Did not know he could do that. LaRavia is still shooting over 50% from 3 for the season. He's 54% for the season. Ja and Desmond both over 45% still from the three-point line. They're the only 2 players in the NBA averaging over 25 points per game while shooting over 45% from 3. I do still think, and maybe this is just me being a pessimist, I still think the Grizzlies' three-point shooting is unsustainably high. It will regress. I saw Kirk Goldsberry, statistician or more of a stats compiler. He posted a thing about the team's jump shooting percentages based on what their expected jump shooting percentages are. Like based on the quality of looks and the distance of their jump shots, what would you expect that team to be shooting from the field? And the Grizzlies right now have the 5th highest above expected field goal percentage in the league, meaning they are making more of them than you would think they would. Possibly it is sustainable for you optimists out there, and they will keep shooting this well, but the Grizzlies have the 5th highest above expected field goal percentage so far on jump shots this season. I also saw a thing, if you want to get into the deep analytics portion of the show, where the Grizzlies, before the Celtics game, they had the 3rd easiest strength of schedule so far this year when you adjust it not just for opponent, but for which players were actually playing in the games. If you use the Darko ratings for each individual player, if you do the schedule based on who actually played in the games, the Grizzlies have the 3rd easiest schedule so far before the Celtics game. So the takeaways from that, you could say, all right, the schedule's been surprisingly easy, and also the Grizzlies are making more jump shots than one would expect. You're getting some good jump shot luck. That's why the Grizzlies started 7-3, which is all fine, and I'll take it. Who cares if we got lucky? We are keeping our heads well above water, waiting for the return of Jaren Jackson Jr. By the way, word on the street, everyone's talking about Jaren's coming back next week. On Twitter, somebody said they ran into him at a restaurant in Memphis, and he said he was coming back in a week. I don't know if you can believe Jaren, but it would make sense for Jaren to come back soon. The team right now, 7-4. I mean, we assume we're just waiting on him to get healthy, but the schedule right now, it really spaces out as far as there aren't any back-to-backs. There aren't any of these 3 games in 4 nights. They play at the Spurs on Wednesday, then a day off, then back at home for the Timberwolves on Friday night. Remember, that's that ESPN game. It's a late tip-off. Also, it's a watch party if you're in Nashville. Come on down to Noble's, a beer hall this Friday. The game's at 8:30. I'll be giving away Grizzlies prizes. We'll have drink specials, so come out to Noble's for the watch party on Friday. But it's just a game every other day. Wednesday, Spurs. Friday, play the Timberwolves. Sunday, you play at the Wizards. Tuesday, you play the Pelicans. Then you have 2 more days off. The following Friday is a home game against the Thunder. Can that be Jaren's debut right there? It would make a lot of sense. But the Grizzlies have a good chance now with this 7-4 start, which again, I'm very happy with, to rack up some victories in the next 5 games. 3-2 feels like underselling it. Hopefully they can go 4-1. And I would say 5-0 is definitely not off the table, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, what with the Grizzlies having jump shooting luck so far this year. Also off the bench, I mean, Tyus Jones unfortunately posted a team worst -21. Most of that damage was done at that start of the second quarter where the Grizzlies conceded a 20-0 run. Tillman got more playing time in this one than normal because of obviously Steven Adams being out. His minutes have not gone tremendously, but I thought he made a few nice plays. Particularly, he had that offensive rebound, kicked it out for an assist in the first quarter. It was pretty solid, but a very modest stat line in his 17 minutes. 2 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists. And then Roddy, just a rough go of it, the 5 minutes, the -15 in those 5 minutes, picked up 2 defensive rebounds, and that's all. The Grizzlies, all right, they played well as far as their effort, making 3-pointers, keeping up with the Celtics. They're not forcing the turnovers, really. They posted 4 steals, which is tied for their fewest steals in a game over the last 2 seasons. Last year, they only had 1 game all year where they had 4 or fewer steals. They had 4. And so far this year, they've already had 2. So, as predicted, and all my preseason predictions have not come true, but they're not going to force the turnovers, they're not going to get steals like they did last year, has come very much true so far. But you live with, again, playing the Celtics down to the wire, and I found it an encouraging loss. These are the teams you compare yourself to say it again. As a team coming off making the second round of the playoffs last year, and with these dreams of Grizzlies fans and the Grizzlies organization to make a deeper run this year, I definitely watch these games more closely against the elite NBA teams. And sure, you lost to the Celtics. You also lost to the Mavs in your other big test this year. But this one, you were playing on the second night of a back-to-back, just like you were in that Mavericks game, but you showed up and you competed really, really hard. Let's take a quick break, and then after the break, I'm going to indulge some of the worst impulses of podcasters and talk about some potential big-name trades, because I feel like we have to mention it. What with Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis both possibly being available and being great theoretical fits on the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll talk about that right after this break. All Grizz all the time. Stay connected and follow at MemGrizz and at Grind City Media across all social channels, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for breaking news, one-of-a-kind content, and all the perspectives you won't find anywhere else. All right, so we have done this before a little bit, talking about Kevin Durant and the fit of him on the Memphis Grizzlies and him demanding a trade earlier in the year and then him saying, all right, he's not going to have a trade, but things in Brooklyn, if you aren't aware, I assume you are aware, not going very well. Kyrie Irving currently suspended indefinitely as he has to make amends for sharing a bit of anti-Semitic propaganda, I guess is the best word. He's out. The Nets are 4-7. Ben Simmons is not playing very well. You would think it would make sense for this Nets team to try to recoup some value for Kevin Durant. Kyrie Irving not going to be on the team next year unless something outlandish happens. So if Kyrie's moving on, you have KD, who's 34 years old. If you could get value for him, it makes sense to probably start a rebuild for the Nets. And then you have the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James cannot be traded this season because of when he signed his extension. But the Los Angeles Lakers are 2-8 after 10 games. On Monday, that was their first back-to-back of the season. They hadn't played a back-to-back yet. LeBron did not play. The Lakers are 2-8. They don't even have the rights to their own pick. They have a pick swap with the Pelicans, which could be disastrous for the Grizzlies if the Pelicans end up getting like a top five pick from the Lakers. Please, no Victor Wembanyama on the Pelicans. No Scoot Henderson on the Pelicans. But the Lakers, and this might have just been something made up by Bill Simmons, but the Lakers, there's talk that they would consider trading Anthony Davis, and it makes sense. These teams have to figure out what they're doing going forward. And both of these players, Anthony Davis and Kevin Durant, yeah, they would fit on a lot of teams, but they specifically are ideal fits on the Memphis Grizzlies. Not only that, the Memphis Grizzlies are a contender who have draft picks, all their draft picks, plus that extra Warriors pick that they could trade. And because KD and Anthony Davis don't overlap with any of your best players, it's something I feel like you have to consider to find out exactly what the cost would be. When I think about trades, repeating myself now, I just consider how do these players, these potential players fit alongside my core? How do they fit alongside my best guys? Our best guys, Ja Morant and Desmond Bane, arguably the top backcourt in the NBA. After last game, Ja Morant was asked where they rank among NBA backcourts. He said top 2, not 2. It's a fair argument. The Grizzlies have an elite young backcourt in Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. We also have an all-NBA defense performing caliber player in Jaren Jackson Jr. What players fit ideally along those three? Well, Kevin Durant or Anthony Davis. I mean, Anthony Davis is probably the perfect front court partner for Jaren Jackson Jr. A Jaren Jackson Jr., Anthony Davis 4 and 5 is absolutely astoundingly good. I even look at the Grizzlies roster and I think of like Dylan Brooks being an asset. I know he struggles offensively. He struggles with his shot like he did last game and also in second quarters. But if you have Ja, Dez, Dylan, Anthony Davis, and Jaren, 1 through 5, that could be the title favorite. If you sub out Anthony Davis for KD, same story. Now, where the rubber meets the road, what is the cost and what are the matching salaries that can make these things happen? I'll start with KD because it feels less likely. When I think about these theoretical trades, I get greedy. I want to keep all my good players and add Kevin Durant. I don't know if that's feasible. The easiest way to trade for Kevin Durant is to include Jaren Jackson Jr., not just because of the asset of Jaren Jackson Jr., a young guy under contract going to the Nets that would be attractive, but because of the matching salary. You have to match the $44 million of salary that Durant makes this year. And to do that, the easiest way is to include Jaren and Danny Green. You're done right there. Let's just talk about doing this trade. Let's talk about trading Jaren Jackson Jr. for Kevin Durant. If you have Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Dillon Brooks, Kevin Durant, and Steven Adams as your starting five, you also might be a title favorite. The Grizzlies are very, very good right now and Jaren Jackson Jr. is not playing. If you replace Santi Aldama with Kevin Durant, I mean, come on. Get out of town. That's elite. The issue is, of course, you are limiting your long-term potential for sustained success. You increase your title odds this year and next year, but then probably decrease your title odds 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now. Now, I don't know the correct answer for what is the right thing to do. The Grizzlies right now, you could say maybe have a 5% chance of winning the title this season as is. That's what the Vegas sportsbooks say. They're about 18-1 most places. If you added Kevin Durant, are you going up to 20%? Maybe that's too high because you still have like the Bucks and you still have the Suns and whoever else in the West. I don't know who else there is in the West. The Warriors. The Warriors are not playing super well. They got helped out by a non-call at the end of their game on Monday night. But I would think that Ja, Dez, Dillon, KD, and Steven Adams starting five, that's the best team in the West. That's the team to beat in the West. Is it worth it giving up Jaren Jackson Jr. to trade for him? Would it be Jaren Jackson Jr., Danny Green, and maybe 1 or 2 picks? I don't know if that's enough. Nets fans might scoff and say that's nowhere close. But that would move the Grizzlies from, a 5% chance of winning the title this year, although 538 says they have between a 7 and a 9% chance of winning a title this season. And they are including the fact that Jaren Jackson Jr. is coming back in that projection. But would you trade Jaren Jackson Jr. and 2 first-round picks to quadruple your title odds for the next 2 seasons? I don't know. The issue with Durant is the age. He's 34, and he's signed for 3 more seasons after this one, and honestly, I don't really want a part of that. But KD on the Grizzlies would be so good. Now, can we trade for KD without including Jaren Jackson Jr.? That's where it becomes next to impossible. Really, really hard. You can't trade Steven Adams this year because of the way he signed his extension. You would need to probably include Tyus Jones. Tyus Jones can't be traded until January 15th. Tyus Jones plus Danny Green plus Dillon Brooks, that gets you there. Now, how many picks would you have to attach to make that? For me, there isn't really a formula that makes sense because of that. Because, again, like I said, I want to be greedy. I want to keep Jaren Jackson Jr. and also get Kevin Durant. The fact that we would have to include probably every pick we had for Kevin Durant in that scenario, Tyus Jones plus Dillon Brooks plus Danny Green, and also we're losing a good wing player in Dillon Brooks. I know you say, well, who cares? We're getting Kevin Durant. Fair argument. But because I'm worried about Kevin Durant's decline and I like the current trajectory of the Grizzlies, I probably would not entertain the Jaren Jackson Jr. Trade for KD. Also wouldn't entertain trading, 3 first-round picks and 2 swaps or something, and Tyus and Danny and Dillon for Kevin Durant. I don't like that trade that much because I don't like the out years. If you do like that trade, I understand because you're greatly increasing the odds you win the title this year and next year, and nothing is assured in the NBA. When your window is open, you might as well go for it. Now, that's what takes me to Anthony Davis, and I'm extremely encouraged or excited about the prospect of Anthony Davis being on the Grizzlies. Now, my one holdup, I think his vibes are terrible. I think Anthony Davis is bad for all locker rooms. I don't have a scientific reason for that. I don't have any data to back it up. I know Pelicans fans obviously hate him, and he seemed like he was the worst when he forced his way out of there. And then he wins this title on the Lakers. He's unbelievable in that postseason. And he's still one of the best bigs in the NBA, and his versatility is a perfect, ideal pairing with Jaren Jackson Jr. So I'm not interested in trading Jaren for him as part of a package. That's the hard part that makes it tough. You could trade the same thing, Danny Green, Tyus Jones, and Dillon Brooks, make the salaries work, but honestly, I still want to keep Dillon Brooks. Anthony Davis and Dillon Brooks don't play the same position. I would rather keep our wing rotation as strong as it is and just massively upgrade our front court. After January 15th, you could even include Brandon Clark, his poison pill of his contract. I think the math still works out. You could trade Danny Green, Tyus Jones, Brandon Clark, and Xavier Tillman for Anthony Davis and one of the Lakers' cheaper players, whoever they don't want, Thomas Bryant or Juan Toscano Anderson or whoever, Wenyen Gabriel. And that financially works. Anthony Davis makes a little bit less money per year than Kevin Durant. Anthony Davis is also much younger. I know he has injury concerns. He gets dinged up all the time. I mean, the Grizzlies would give him second nights of back-to-backs off. They would take it easy in the regular season. But if you could get Anthony Davis without giving up Jaren Jackson Jr., without giving up Dillon Brooks, what is that worth to you? I think if I remove the personality aspect of it and how much I don't really care for Anthony Davis, that feels like a potential all-in move for the Grizzlies. Like trade the Lakers 4 first-round picks or 3 first-round picks and a pick swap. It might not even take that much. Would you trade any young players? Zaire Williams is from Southern California. Would you include Zaire Williams in a trade to get Anthony Davis? I think I would. If the Lakers value Zaire Williams at the level of like a lottery pick or a first-round pick, could you offer Danny Green and Tyus Jones? That's just a salary ballast we have to use to match the salaries of, or match the salary of Anthony Davis. Danny Green and Tyus Jones plus Zaire Williams, and then you probably have to include Xavier Tillman or Conchar or LaRavia just to match salary. It's very, very narrow. Or it's very, very tight having to get up to Anthony Davis's $38 million salary. The reason I entertain it, if it's not apparent to you, is Jaren and Anthony Davis could be the best front court in the NBA. The fit is so much better than this Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns nonsense. Yes, Anthony Davis's jump shot has basically disappeared since the Orlando bubble. It doesn't really matter that much to me. Yes, his isolation scoring is bad. It's fine. We already have, by the way, the best arguable backcourt in the NBA. You have Ja and Dez. To have that defensive versatility in the front court and guys who can score but don't necessarily need to score, don't need to be the go-to scorer, it's perfection. It really is. What would the Lakers accept in a trade? Would 3 first-round picks or four first-round picks, maybe it's a couple swaps, 3 firsts in a swap, would they trade Anthony Davis for that, where they are? Honestly, just adding Tyus Jones to that Lakers roster would help them a ton, even win some games this year. Sure, it's not going to make up for losing Anthony Davis, but they're 2-8 right now with Anthony Davis and with Anthony Davis healthy. I would certainly shortcut or consider taking a shortcut on the Grizzlies' long-term growth as a franchise when you think about being patient and just developing your young guys and giving minutes to the draft picks. I would absolutely think long and hard about trying to put together a massive offer to bring in Anthony Davis. He's signed for 2 more years after this year. Again, he's only 29 years old. Would he be content in Memphis? I have no idea. Would he be a weirdo that ruins the locker room chemistry? I have no idea. If you just look at the basketball fit, can you find a better fit? No. I mean, maybe, all right, replace Dillon with Jason Tatum. That's a better fit. Will there be another wing player or another front court potential partner to join with Jaren Jackson Jr. that's even better? Like, you can keep Steven Adams. I'm not mentioning Steven Adams in the front court pairing. Steven Adams and Anthony Davis can play together. Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson Jr. we know can play together. Are you going to close games with Steven Adams? No, you're going to close with Jaren and Anthony Davis. It's moving on from Steven Adams being your best option at the 5. I mean, even when Jaren comes back, I think the best option for the Grizzlies most of the time is going to be Jaren and Brandon. That's my favorite front court pairing for the Grizzlies. The Anthony Davis piece of this, it's very, very enticing and intriguing. Is it worth spending 4 first-round picks to raise your title odds from 5% or 8% to 15 to 20% or 25%? I do not know. I do not know what the cost-benefit analysis is for those things. If there's a formula out there, just saying, would you have more options? Would you have more years at that 5% opportunity? Could you have a 5% chance or better to win the title in the next 10 years if you don't make a big move like this, if you don't trade a lot of future first-round picks? Or is it better to go harder for the first few years here while Ja is young and in his absolute athletic prime, to pair him with an Anthony Davis who might have a lot of years left, and maybe you could flip him a couple years from now for something else? I don't know how he's going to age particularly. He's not nearly as good as he was, but he still is an elite frontcourt player, and thus, if he were to be made available, like he's rumored to be available, the idea of the Grizzlies pursuing him is very, very interesting, and they're one of the few teams that has the draft capital to trade. They have some young pieces like Isaiah Williams or their draft picks this year where maybe you could entice the Lakers that way, and they have all the other pieces already in place where Anthony Davis would be a perfect plug-and-play type guy. So I'm curious what you guys think. I know we always talk about trades and the Grizzlies never make a trade, which is probably what I would say is the most likely thing to happen. They're comfortable building this way. They were really awesome last year without making a big trade. I think they're going to be very awesome this year without making a big trade. Is it worth it to pull the trigger if the Lakers get desperate? If no one else offers anything better, could you get them for, maybe not 4 first-round picks, but just 3 first-round picks? I would think long and hard about it. It's a very enticing fit. Anyways, that's the episode for today. Encouraging loss. Maybe it's wrong of me to be so happy about a Grizzlies loss, but an encouraging loss against the Celtics. The Grizzlies are back at it on Wednesday night. If you're in the Nashville area, reminder, don't miss that watch party in Nashville on Friday for that Timberwolves-Grizzlies game. The return of Kyle Anderson to the FedEx Forum will be at Noble's Beer Hall at 8:30 p.m. on Friday. Anyways, hope you guys are having a great day. Talk to you soon. Go Grizz.